Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by Nate Weitzer. He's on the East Coast as always. And we are kicking off Monday here in the NBA, about a 9-game slate. And we've got best bets in this episode for you. Also got player props up in a separate one. So make sure to subscribe to that page. Continue to follow along with us as we continue to move throughout this NBA season. Also want to let you guys know real quick that we do have a wonderful deal back up with our partnership with BetMGM. If you do not yet have a BetMGM account at the sportsbook, definitely use the code TheLines YT50 when you do sign up. Get yourself up to $1,500 in bonus bets back if your first bet fails to cash. Plus, you get $50 in bonus bets regardless of that first bet. So, really nice deal going on right now. Limited time as well. So, make sure you jump in there if you don't yet have a BetMGM account. Nate, let's go ahead and get right into our first NBA best bet here.
Yes, it is the fishy line of the night. Thunder only -4.5 at Sacramento with a 4-day rest spot here as the Kings play their third game in 4 nights. I can't overthink it. I got to just take the Thunder here, -4.5. It is a good money line parlay situation. I don't know what your favorite partner is for that parlay. I mean, there's some relatively big favorites here, but I mean, 4 points against this Kings team, which is just like, they got their guys back and I liked them on Friday, but those guys are not healthy, I guess. At least DeMar DeRozan still dealing with the back. It appears like shooting 35% in these two. Played 36 minutes a game in both games over the weekend, and now he has to go on a back-to-back. I wouldn't be surprised if he's scratched, but I probably like this more if he does play, right? Because he's kind of muddying up the works for the Kings offense. I mean, they had their identity as a Fox Sabonis team, and they'd given OKC a tough run in recent years. They beat him twice, earlier last season, but then OKC won both in that last one. And now I think the OKC defense is good enough to contain Fox, who really carried the Kings in those wins. Even without Caruso, they have so many good defensive guards. They have Hartenstein now to bang with Sabonis. Didn't really have that luxury. I mean, Chet is a great defender, but with Sabonis, you need strength, right? I mean, you need to be low center of gravity, strong. Hartenstein can bring that at least. He gets a nice rest here after making his debut. The Thunder, I mean, they're only 4-2 ATS on the road this year, but it's a 10-point margin of victory. So like the -4 isn't that scary. They've been in some games and then they just separate late, showing that kind of championship acumen. The Kings, meanwhile, like I said, with DeRozan not producing, with Monk out of the lineup, they've gotten very little production from anyone but Fox. They're 1-6 ATS in the last 7, and that was actually the one where DeRozan got injured, right? And was out of there. That's why I'd be worried about this if he doesn't go on a back-to-back. But if he goes, like I said, OKC absolutely elite against ISOs. They gave up 22 points a game to DeRozan last year, but on 40% shooting, and he was a -45. So they know how to attack him on the other end, and I think they can take advantage in this matchup.
I concur. Isaiah Hartenstein looked incredible in his first game back, if anybody saw it. I think he ended with like 12 or 13 rebounds, had like 5 or 6 assists. Everything we thought about iHeart is going to be what sort of unveils here in OKC. The thing that I think about this game specifically is, like, you've got a team coming off a bad loss to Brooklyn last night in Sacramento. They had to do a lot of coming back. They were down 19 points in that game and had to come back, crawled all the way back, and didn't have the legs, which we see all the time. A team crawls back in these double-digit NBA leads or deficits, and then when they get back, they've used up all their energy to get back into the game and can't really finish it. And that's what happened last night. So what I would also potentially look at is, like, maybe the Kings coming out hot, being pissed off that they lost to Brooklyn last night, and then just not having the legs to finish it. So like a first quarter Kings bet with their loss, right? With the eventual OKC money line is one of those kind of cool plays that we like to put up when we think we understand the sort of the game flow and game script. And I could see that, but if you don't want to mess with that, I'm perfectly fine with OKC. Like you said, let's not overthink this one. Sometimes the fishy bet is a little bit more pertinent for like the NFL. This one seems like we should just back what we know. But let me go ahead to my first bet here, get -104 for a little parlay with Franz Wagner and 25 plus and the Magic to beat the Hornets, which they just did in the NBA Cup, and they smacked them for sure. Both teams undermanned. But guess what? We get the exact same context as we had in that game in this one. No Miles Bridges, no Trey Mann, and then obviously no Paolo. The difference would be if Wendell Carter Jr. plays, and then he gets the minutes that Goga Batadze was using to dominate the Hornets last game. And even if Wendell's back, I do think it's probably a pretty even split between he and Goga. But with looking at Bridges and Mann out, both for the second straight game, really interesting numbers with Miles Bridges, somewhat damning, to be honest. 114.8 offensive rating with Bridges this season. And this is also pretty much mirrors his on-off numbers, right? So when they don't have him at all or he's off the floor, very similar numbers that I'm spitting out to you right now, which is 115 offensive rating, which is good for 7th in the NBA when Bridges is out there. 120.6 defensive rating with Miles Bridges, which is worst in the NBA. Without Miles Bridges, just turn everything upside down of what I just said. 106.7 offensive rating, which is 5th worst in the league when Miles is out or off the floor in general. And 108.9 defensive rating without Miles, which is 6th best in the NBA. So the fact that his on-off numbers tell this story means I don't think there's much of a difference when he's out of the game entirely or just off the floor for a few minutes. And that's going to be the whole game now without him is just a lot worse offense and much better defense. But I still think no matter what, Orlando is good to win this game. And if you wanted to take them -5.5, I might not be that scared of it. They have looked incredible. They've played up to their competition. They've overcome bad competition. I'm not worried about this team falling into traps at this point. You've got Franz and like Jalen Suggs and dudes playing for their NBA careers almost. I mean, or at least really good role players, and then dudes that really care. That can't afford to not try is my point. I'm obviously the rooks or the young guys like Anthony Black and De Silva playing for real rotation minutes, but I think that's only going to be the motivation that they need. Franz is absolutely unstoppable right now as well. But last thing I would say about Orlando and they're likely to dominate is they're winning in the paint. Chicago's allowing the most attempts at the rim. That's where we know this team wants to go. And on the other side of the ball, the Magic are defending exactly what Charlotte is relying upon, other than LaMelo bombing threes, which I do think will happen in this game. Nate, I don't know about you, but I'm not scared of LaMelo over 30 points in this game when he's shooting the ball 30 times per game without Miles Bridges. So it's like, it sounds like a lot, but when you take 17 threes a game and 30 shots a game, is 30 points that unrealistic? Not really. You ain't got to even shoot like 42% to get there. But that's going to be the only play that they have, which was the case last time they went out. He scored 35 in 35 minutes, and they still lost by 20 points, right, for the Hornets. So I'm not worried about that because inside, they're going to get dominated, and then they actually are relying on offensive rebounds, right? It's like, LaMelo's going to shoot, so everybody just go crash the boards because this is our offense. If he misses, we need to get that offensive rebound. They've actually relied a ton on that. Third most second chance points in the league, and Orlando is number 1 limiting second chance points, has the highest defensive rebound percentage in the league. Really good rebounding team. I don't know if you know this, but Orlando's better. I will say when it comes to Franz at the 25 plus, this is something he's done way more recently. 6 of his last 7, he's gone over this number. He's gotten at least 29 points. He has didn't do that at the beginning when Paolo went out, right? In the first like handful of games, in the first 6 games, he only went over once, averaging about 25.8 points. But he's just going to be eating at the rim. This is why we picked him last time as well when he went up against Charlotte. He had 14 points in the paint. He had 12 fast break points. He got to the line 7 times. I expect the exact same sort of script here for Franz and company moving in this one.
Yeah, this thing is on the move, man. -2.5, I think it was when we started the day. And then, it's because it's the same situation as that NBA Cup game where Miles Bridges is out. They have no one to deal with Franz Wagner, who's been red hot. So I like the combo. It makes sense. It's the reason the Magic will probably win this game. And to your question about LaMelo, he only doesn't get there probably if he has a really horrible shooting night or this isn't close, and it's possible it's not close. But I mean, Orlando, I don't see them necessarily running away from everyone. So I like the money line parlay, given how out of control this spread has gotten. I'm going to do a parlay here in Denver. Jokic 25 and 10, which he is doing in his sleep right now, and Jalen Brunson to get 20. That's plus 116 at FanDuel. Karl Anthony Towns is questionable, and I don't mean that in the sense that he's allowing opponents to shoot 90% on him, but that he is on the injury report with a calf. And if he can't go here, that definitely helps both angles. If he does go, he's not stopping the Joker on his own. He had some moments against him in the playoffs, but that was with Rudy Gobert lurking behind him. And now Cat is on an island against the man, the potential 4-time MVP, who's also getting the new baby bump, which we've seen from plenty of people, notably Fred VanVleet, friend of the show, 33 and a half points and 15 rebounds for Joker in 2 games since returning after the birth of his child. So, I mean, obviously he just crushes it, especially at home. But without Aaron Gordon, his averages the last 2 years are up to 27 and 13, basically. And I mean, even with Cat, this Knicks front court has been a disaster defensively. They have the fourth worst defensive rating on the road now, and they just gave up a combined 65-32 line to the Jazz front court. The Jazz, not in a loss. So I mean, I was thinking about adding the Nuggets money line here. If you are worried about them kind of running away, I know Josh as a Knicks fan gives them a fair shot here, but it's a bad spot for the Knicks travel wise. If they don't have Cat, I don't see how they hold up in the paint. Deuce McBride also iffy here, so you get even more JB being kind of the JB of last year, where he averaged 30 on the road with a 33% usage rate. Certainly, if there's no Cat, he's in that kind of huge usage rate spot. And the Nuggets rim protection ain't what it's been. I mean, without AG out there again, like their defense a little more vulnerable, especially in the pick and roll, right? So Brunson should be kind of the focal point of this Knicks offense, even if Cat's able to go.
Yeah. My take on the Knicks right now is that Jalen is passing a lot. I think if Cat's out, this is a proverbial lock. I don't use the L word, but like I think this is a very great bet. If Cat is out, I think that's when JB reverts to last year's JB a little bit more. My fear with it is that if Cat is taking 20 shots, that eats too much into Jalen Brunson. That's my only fear. But either way, like I think Jalen for 20 is doable. I think at 27 and a half, where they're keeping his line right now, is unrealistic, and people are still just remembering Jalen Brunson as a free throw machine. By the way, need to consider for Jalen that like moving forward this season, keep an eye on that. Those free throws aren't getting called the same way. His free throw rate is down, still probably more due to Cat being around, but the 20 points is where I'm good. The 28 is where I'm like, I don't think I would be taking Jalen Brunson that high in this matchup too. Like fifth best, Denver limits point guards to the fifth fewest points. So those are some things that made me want to take the dimes for him. But if New York's going to stay in this game at all, especially if Cat's not in, then Jalen's going to have to do some work. But let me close it out with Indy. And there's two ways I'm playing this, because CJ McCollum is legit questionable. So we might actually finally have a New Orleans starter available. And if he's plays, so keep an eye on this, because if he plays, this is at 225 and a half. I can't reasonably take an over with a game that has New Orleans in it if they don't have one more offensive weapon. I cannot do it. It's been the slowest team in the league, second slowest team in the league. It's been a just tire fire on offense, and it's not fair. I mean, they don't have any starters, so you put CJ in there, it's going to look a lot better. I imagine that if he does play, they're like, hey, from the bench to 30 minutes, because we can't afford to keep, we don't have anything else, right? Brandon Boston ain't it. So no offense to Brandon Boston, nice player, just ain't it. But if he does not play, Indy to win this thing by 6 doesn't scare me at all. They're 5-2 at home straight up and against the spread. This is going to be, I think this is probably going to be another Indy, we're way better at home on offense and terrible everywhere on defense. So we prefer to play at home where we score more. They got 120.6 points per game at home versus 110 on the road. So doubling 10 more points there. 117 allowed at home versus 119 on the road. So defense is a little bit better at home as well. Still not awesome, but it's better. It's the threes. There is a 4 threes made disparity between them playing at home and them on the road. Right? 10 made threes on the road, 14 when they play at home. The percentage difference, 43% from deep at home and 31% on the road. And they played 10 road games, 7 home games, 2-8 on the road there and straight up, and 3-7 against the spread. So this is, I think we can rely on some of these stark differences for Indy at home and on the road. Weirdly, they play faster on the road by about 2 possessions per 100 because they're just not efficient. So it doesn't matter. They can't get the offense going that way. And I think a good sort of feather in their cap is they are playing helter skelter. They're not good on defense, but when they turn you over, they're going. They're getting it and they're going. They've got the 10th most points off a turnover in the last 10 games, as they really sort of started to prioritize that clearly. And if New Orleans is going to score, I do think that they need to get those O-rebs, and that's going to be what's huge for them. But guys like even like Brandon Ingram, who's a good offensive rebounder with his length, is forced to stand outside near the perimeter a lot more without a guy like CJ playing on ball. So CJ being in there would be incredibly helpful, and is a big reason why I think that the over at that point in time, if CJ's out there, is the better play at 225 and a half. But if he doesn't, then I'm totally fine with -6 for Indy.
Yeah, no thanks on an over with the Indiana Pacers right now and their gross, inconsistent offense. You're with the
You mean the
public
Pelicans?
tonight, my friend. Though you are this one also on the move. Yeah, now -7 where I see it. It's up 2 points. I don't know. I'm a little scared of the Pels. I think they might be, after they played the Warriors close, granted a much easier spot for them at home. But I don't trust the Pacers at all. The way I would play this game is Brandon Ingram points, even if CJ comes back, or Trey Murphy. I was looking at. I think they're starting to get their guys back a little bit, and those guys are going to have success against a Pacers defense that's missing Aaron Nesmith, which would help the over if you are going to go that direction for sure. But I think it also helps the top guys for the Pelicans just get buckets against this team.
Yeah, CJ and Brandon. I mean, that's the Pellies pull up. That's what they do. There's not much assisting going on. There's not much ball movement. There's pull ups, and that's how you beat Indy. They are 10th worst. Or at least they give up the 10th most attempts from the pull up, 7th most makes. So really high percentage. Not a good defense, like we're saying. I don't trust them, but I trust them way more than the Pellies without CJ McCollum. I think Brandon Ingram is the guy to target either way, but I've tried that in good matchups, and they can't even keep the game within 25 points for him to stay in it. This is a problem. So we'll see what happens with Indy tonight. But I think that pace, you're right. Like I'm not touching a Pellies over unless they have CJ. That's for damn sure. So that's all the time we have though for you in Best Bets. Continue to follow along and subscribe to that page. Check out the play of props that we have up in a separate episode. Until we see you next, happy betting.